Hello everybody, my name is Carolyn Fopiano, and for my presentation I will be going over phonemic awareness assessments. Now you may be wondering, what is phonemic awareness? Phonemic awareness is an auditory skill that has to do with phonemes, and a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound, such as the k in cat or the a in cane. Now having a good sense of phonemic awareness is essential when learning how to read. Phonemes, however, are pretty difficult to master right away, and they differentiate from one word to another, and without phonological skills, students will struggle when it comes to reading. Since phonemes are a bit tricky to understand, there is an extremely special notation used for phonemes. Now, there are 44 phonemes in the English language. However, there are only 26 letters in the alphabet, so it wouldn't make sense for phonemes to be written as a single letter. Instead, they are notated between slashes and sometimes include more than one letter, such as the phoneme ch in child, which is written as /ch/, or they have an accent in them to refer to a specific sound, such as the A in cane. Now, there are instances where the phoneme is written with a different letter that is used for the spelling, such as the k in cat, or there are multiple phonemes for different letters, and sometimes they match up, sometimes they don't. So it also isn't super effective to just teach kids the phonemes themselves, because again, it just really doesn't make sense, and it's extremely confusing, especially for young children. Phonemic awareness can be considered a pre-reading skill, as it starts to develop before a lot of kids are learning how to read. However, in the kindergarten, first grades area is when most children's understanding of phonemes is solid. Now, phonemic awareness itself includes many subskills, and these subskills are typically developed in students by around that time period of kindergarten and first grade. Now, by the end of kindergarten, typically developing students will be able to match phonemes, isolate phonemes that are the initial, middle, and final sounds of a word, and be able to blend different phonemes together to create words. By the end of first grade, typically developing students should be able to segment phonemes in a word, manipulate phonemes, whether they are the initial sound, the final sound, or somewhere in the middle, and they should be able to substitute phonemes for other things. Now, you may be wondering what any of those things mean or how any of this works. And for that, I would say it's a lot easier to see once you see how these things are assessed. And speaking of assessment, let's see right here is an informal phonemic awareness assessment. Now, since phonological awareness is key in order to learn how to read, phonological awareness assessments happen in kindergarten and first grade. Now, these assessments need to be auditory, with very minimal reading or writing involved, since phonological awareness is primarily an auditory skill. And if you're trying to test a child on too many factors, then you're not going to know what they know and what they don't. Now, it's recommended that phonemic awareness assessments happen about 3 or 4 times in kindergarten and 3 times in first grade. Now, when phonemic awareness assessments happen, they are verbal, and when conducted in informal like this, you're simply asking a student questions about phonemic awareness skills. Now, phonemic awareness, that's a big word for a kindergartner. So, something you would do to test this is just using words that they know. For example, if you could ask a child, which words sound alike? Man, sat, or sip? And the correct answer, of course, would be sat and sit. Now that's phenome matching because you are taking the smallest segment in a word and seeing which one sounds similar, so you're matching them. Now, for phenome isolation, you could ask something such as, what's the first sound in sat? Now, for that, the correct answer would be s. However, when you're asking for isolation for the initial letter, the medial letter, or the final letter, it could be any of those. It could be a or t. Now, if you're trying to assess phenome isolation, the question would be, oh, no, excuse me, I already did phenome isolation. In order to assess phenome blending, you could ask, what word do these sounds make? D, a, g. And the correct answer to that would be dog. And that is, again, blending phenomes together. Now for segmenting now for phonemic segmenting, it would simply be the opposite of it. For example, what sounds do you hear in the word hot? And those phonemes would be h, a, and t. Now for phonome manipulation, it's a little bit more complicated than that simple question. So how it's written here is you can say, is asking the child to say the word cat. Now, once they've said it, you can ask them to change the k in cat to a b. Now, if they were to answer this correctly, then they would say bat. Now, this again is a very informal assessment. It can just be a question asked to a student, and there really isn't any scoring or anything to this. It's just a simple way to figure out what phonemic awareness skills are the students strong in, what are they struggling with it, and it can inform like which lessons and what sort of things you focus on. However, sometimes a more formal assessment is required so you can get a numeric sense of exactly how a certain student is doing. Now, in this particular assessment, this is one page of a very long assessment that has multiple parts that also includes areas that have nothing to do with phonemic awareness, such as letter sound identification, identifying what is print versus what is a picture, and correctly holding a book. However, what you see right in front of you is simply just phonemic awareness skills. There are more than just this, but this is a page that happens to have just phonemic awareness skills broken up into 4 separate skills. Now, in each section, there are explicit directions that is how you even speak to the child. For example, in skill 6, it says, I will say 1 or 2 part words. You will blend the words together and tell me the big word. That is exactly what the teacher is supposed to say to the student. And then the teacher would say the word parts that are listed underneath there, pausing between the 2 of them, and the student will respond with the whole word. Now, the directions say that if the word is correct, then this teacher should mark that. However, if the student responds incorrectly, then it should be exactly recorded how they got it incorrect. So there's a lot more notation and just physical hard data. Now, once the assessment is complete, take the score of what the student got right, put in the little section that says blank out of 10, and then you can add up all of the scores and get a specific number based on what's going on. And much like the informal assessment, it's the exact same outcome. You get to see where a student is having more trouble, where a student's strengths are, so you can tailor your lesson to it. And so it isn't something that is like massively reported like MCAST or something. It's just a simple test to see where students are and where they need to be. Now you may be wondering, what is the point of phonemic awareness assessments? It's not an assessment of reading itself. However, it is essential in order for reading, because phonemic awareness is a stepping stone for phonological awareness. Now, phonological awareness is the ability to hear and manipulate sounds, like any sounds, not just the smallest sound that can do it. And if a student has a strong understanding of phonological awareness, then they'll be able to use syllables, onset, rhymes, and phonological units of spoken language, which then will help them understand morphemes, affixes, and phonics. Phonics, which are all things that a student needs to know in order to be able to read. Therefore, it is essential that phonemic awareness not only happen, but it happens as early in school as we've discussed. So that way students can can have their lessons tailored directly to them. So that way they have full phonemic awareness and they will be able to grow as learners and as readers. Thank you for watching my presentation. This is my bibliography, and I hope you have a nice day.